What if I told you the most famous tanks in the world are not surviving the war they were built for? Russia has lost thousands of tanks in Ukraine. America's legendary Abrams arrived with a reputation built in Desert Storm, but in Ukraine it was hunted by mines, missiles, artillery, and drones. Britain's Challenger 2, a tank that carried an almost untouchable image for decades, finally met the brutal reality of modern warfare. And Russia's older Soviet tanks are exploding so violently that their turrets are being thrown into the sky. This is not just a ranking of tanks. This is the story of how Ukraine became the graveyard of armored legends and how modern war changed the meaning of tank power forever. For decades, people believed the best tank was the one with the biggest gun, the thickest armor, and the most powerful engine. But Ukraine has proved something completely different. Today, the best tank is the one that can survive drones, mines, top attack missiles, artillery strikes, and still protect its crew. It is not only about firepower anymore. It is about repair speed, logistics, crew survival, battlefield awareness, and whether that tank can return to combat after being hit. So today, we are ranking the main battle tanks fighting in Ukraine, from the worst performer to the one tank that is actually proving it can survive this new battlefield. At number 10 is Russia's T-72, one of the most common tanks in this war, and also one of the most dangerous for its own crew. The T-72's biggest weakness is its ammunition storage system. The shells are kept inside the crew compartment in an autoloader carousel. When the tank is hit in the wrong place, the ammunition can detonate instantly. This creates the famous jack-in-the-box effect, where the turret is blown completely off the tank and thrown into the air. For the crew inside, survival chances are extremely low. Russia tried to solve this problem by welding metal cages and huge protective frames over the tanks, creating what soldiers call turtle tanks. But these cages also make the tank harder to see from, harder to move, and harder to fight with. The T-72 is cheap, common, and easy to repair, which is why both Russia and Ukraine still use it. But when it comes to crew survival, it remains one of the worst tanks on the battlefield.
At number 9 is Russia's T-80, a tank that was once considered a premium Soviet machine. It has a gas turbine engine, almost like a jet engine, giving it strong speed and cold weather performance. On paper, that sounds powerful, especially for operations in freezing conditions. But in Ukraine, that advantage quickly became a major weakness. The T-80 burns fuel extremely fast, and in the early stages of the invasion, many were abandoned not because they were destroyed, but because they ran out of fuel. Like the T-72, it also suffers from dangerous ammunition storage, which means one penetrating hit can turn the vehicle into a steel coffin. Even upgraded versions like the T-80 BVM, with better optics and improved armor, have not fully escaped the battlefield reality. A faster tank means little if it cannot be sustained, protected, or hidden from drones. At number 8 is Russia's T-62. This tank is old, very old. It belongs to a completely different era of warfare. Its armor is outdated, its gun is outdated, and it was never designed for a battlefield filled with FPV drones, precision artillery, thermal cameras, and modern anti-tank missiles. But Russia still brought it back because it exists in large numbers. The T-62 has been used as mobile artillery, a stationary bunker, and sometimes as a desperate frontline tank when better options were not available. Strangely, it has one advantage over the T-72 and T-80. It does not use the same autoloader carousel. Instead, it has a human loader, which means it is less likely to explode catastrophically when hit. When a T-62 is knocked out, the crew may have a better chance to escape. It is outdated, slow, and vulnerable. But sometimes in a war of attrition, even an old tank is better than no tank at all. At number 7 is Ukraine's T-64, the workhorse of Ukraine's armored force. This tank is not new, and on paper it is outmatched by many modern systems. Its ammunition is old, its armor struggles against modern anti-tank weapons, and its battlefield survival depends heavily on how it is used. But the T-64 has one huge advantage. Ukraine knows how to operate it, repair it, and keep it fighting. That matters more than people realize. A modern Western tank waiting months for spare parts is useless if it cannot return to combat. but a damaged T-64 can often be repaired inside Ukraine and sent back to the front much faster. When Ukrainian crews use it properly for infantry support, trench destruction, and defensive fire missions, it still has real value. The T-64 proves one of the biggest lessons of this war. Logistics can be just as important as technology. At number 6 is America's M1 Abrams, one of the most famous tanks in the world. This is the tank that dominated Desert Storm and became a symbol of American armored power. When the Abrams arrived in Ukraine, many people expected it to change the war. But Ukraine exposed a harsh truth. The Abrams is powerful, but it is also heavy, complex, and maintenance-hungry. Russian minefields slowed it down. Anti-tank missiles targeted it. FPV drones learned its weak points, especially the engine compartment, rear armor, and thinner top sections. The good news is that the Abrams protected its crews better than many Soviet designs. Its blowout panels helped save lives when ammunition was hit, but the tank itself kept getting damaged and knocked out. The Abrams did not fail because it is a bad tank. It struggled because the battlefield changed faster than the legend around it. And if you are enjoying this breakdown, make sure to subscribe now, because this war is rewriting the future of tanks, drones, and modern military power in real time. Every week, Ukraine is showing the world what works, what fails, and what the next generation of warfare will look like. Now, let's move into the tanks that performed better than expected. At number 5 is Poland's PT-91. This tank is based on the T-72, but Poland turned it into a much more capable and survivable machine. Its biggest strength is its improved explosive reactive armor, which gives better coverage than older Soviet systems. It also has a modern fire control system and laser warning receivers, giving the crew a chance to react when they are being targeted. For Ukrainian crews, the PT-91 was easier to learn because it still comes from the T-72 family. That means less training time, faster deployment, and easier battlefield integration. The dangerous autoloader weakness is still there, so it is not perfect. But compared to older T-72 variants, the PT-91 fights smarter, reacts faster, and gives crews a better chance of survival. At number 4 is Russia's T-90, the best tank Russia can actually produce in serious numbers. The T-90M has improved armor, better optics, upgraded explosive reactive protection, and better ammunition storage compared to older Soviet designs. Some ammunition is moved into a rear bustle with blowout panels, giving the crew a better chance of surviving a hit. For a Russian-designed tank, that is a major improvement. But even the T-90 is not safe in Ukraine. Mines, drones, missiles, and artillery have destroyed, damaged, and captured many of them. Russia has deployed T-90s in some of the hardest battles, and the losses show that even the strongest Russian tank is being forced to adapt. The T-90 is dangerous, modern, and capable, but Ukraine has proved that no tank is untouchable anymore. At number 3 is Germany's Leopard 2, the most successful Western tank in Ukraine overall. Its early performance was difficult, especially during the 2023 counteroffensive, when Ukrainian forces pushed into heavily mined Russian defensive lines without enough air cover or mine-clearing support. Leopards were damaged and destroyed by mines, drones, helicopters, and artillery. But the number that truly matters is crew survival. Even when Leopard 2 tanks were hit badly, many crews survived. In a long war, experienced tank crews are incredibly valuable because they take years to train and develop. Once Ukraine adapted its tactics for a drone-heavy battlefield, the Leopard 2 began to show its strengths: strong armor, accurate fire control, and excellent crew protection. It may not be invincible, but it remains one of the most valuable tanks in Ukraine's modern armored force. At number 2 is Britain's Challenger 2. Only a small number were delivered to Ukraine, but this tank arrived with a legendary reputation. For years, it had never been destroyed by enemy fire in combat. That record ended in Ukraine. Mines, anti-tank missiles, Lancet drones, and FPV drones proved that even the most respected tanks are vulnerable in modern war. But in direct fire engagements, the Challenger 2 is still a terrifying weapon. Its advanced optics, powerful gun, and long-range accuracy make it feel more like a precision weapon than a normal battlefield tank. Ukrainian crews have praised its handling, turret rotation, and battlefield awareness. The problem is not performance. The problem is numbers and logistics. Ukraine received very few Challenger 2 tanks, and their unique ammunition must come from British stockpiles. It is powerful, accurate, and heavily protected, but too rare to become the backbone of Ukraine's armored force.
And at number 1 is Sweden's STRV 122. This tank is based on the Leopard 2A5, but Sweden modified it with one priority above all others: survival. It has reinforced roof armor, improved protection, stronger defensive design, and features that matter massively in Ukraine, especially against artillery and drone attacks from above. Only 10 were donated, but their performance has been remarkable. Several were hit, damaged, or abandoned at different points, but the key difference is this: they were recovered, repaired, and returned. That is what separates the STRV 122 from almost everything else on this battlefield. It is not the most famous tank, it is not the most common tank, but in a war where survival, repairability, and crew confidence matter more than reputation, the STRV 122 has proved itself again and again. Ukraine has proved something the world can no longer ignore. The age of the invincible tank is over. Drones, mines, missiles, loitering munitions, and logistics now decide which tanks survive and which tanks become wreckage. The best tank is no longer simply the one with the biggest name or the most famous battlefield history. The best tank is the one that protects its crew, survives the hit, gets repaired, and fights again tomorrow. That is why Sweden's STRV 122 takes the number 1 spot. So what do you think? Is the STRV 122 truly the best tank in Ukraine, or does the Leopard 2 deserve the crown? Comment your ranking below, subscribe for more military breakdowns, and watch the next video, because the future of warfare is changing faster than anyone expected.